Students, for this assignment, we are going to be practicing this idea of using the text tool or the horizontal type tool. It's this one here. And we're also trying to get a sense of balance and tension between positive space. The positive space of the letter is the actual letter itself, and the negative space around it, or the counterform. So practice evaluating and making small adjustments to make those spaces comfortable is what this project is all about. The first step is you go to File and New and Blank File, and you're going to make, it doesn't matter what you name it right now, but the width has to be 6 inches by 6 inches at 300 pixels per inch. You can press OK. Once you have this new file made, bring it over by dragging on this dark gray bar at the top up to the orange line until you see that blue haze appear. Let me just close this and you'll see it appear again. So this giant blue box, and you let go and it'll snap to a maximized view of the workspace. From there you can use a text tool or the horizontal type tool to click and drag out a little box for yourself in which you'll type a letter, whichever one you'd like to do. Let's say R this time, and you've typed out that letter. You can highlight it and change its color. You can highlight it and change the font size. But the easiest way to change the font size, and the way I prefer for you to do it for this project, is to resize this text box while you still have the text tool selected, right up to the letter. Not so far that you make it disappear, but just enough that you can see these anchor points very close to the letter itself. And then you can resize it using the Move tool. Sometimes Photoshop Elements 8 glitches on us, and even though you're trying to drag from here, it won't let you drag out in proportion or constraining the proportions from horizontal and vertical. Sometimes it accidentally acts like a stretch or a squish kind of tool. And if that happens, just press the No, cancel the action. So you'll click once on the corner if you're having trouble with that. Just click once. And then once this is selected and you see this green and red symbol, then you can drag out from that corner and you'll have a proportional move. You can press yes to commit that action. Zoom out a little bit more. There's two ways to zoom: Alt and scroll wheel out, or the Control and the plus minus. So plus will bring you in, zoom in, Control minus will bring you out. Those are just next to backspace. So zoom out far enough that you can see the edge still, drag that, and you're trying to find a balance between making the letter so massive that you get very strong shapes, but not so big that we start to lose what letter it is. Like this one, as it stands, could be a K. We're not totally sure. Maybe it's a B. The straightness of this stroke makes us think it might be an R. So if we get a little bit more curvature to this, that might come across more readily as an R. You can also rotate the shape to make it more interesting. And by doing that, you just hover near the edge, just outside the boundary of that anchor point, until you see the curved arrows, and then you can click and rotate them. Resize as needed, but your goal is to make it as big as possible while retaining the unique characteristic of the letter. You'll make 2 to 4 compositions of this style of letter, and I'd like you to do it in the same colorway for all 4. So you're choosing just 2 colors. A color for the positive space being the letter itself, and the negative space is the space around it. So you can make a new layer to go behind your text. Drag that layer underneath yours by clicking and dragging on it underneath your letter layer. And in that layer 1, you can use the paint bucket tool, and you can choose your color down at the bottom to whatever you want. This foreground color here, you can drag to choose the hue and click in this centered point, centered space to choose a specific color on that spectrum between black and white, desaturated and saturated. And then while you're on layer 1, you can press the paint bucket tool and it'll fill that in. So if you've chosen these two colors, please stick with those two colors for your other 4 compositions. If you want to save that color, you can go up to Window and Color Swatches, which will activate this little panel down here. And where it says Create New Color Swatch of Foreground Color, you click that, and that is that maroony red that I selected there. And if I want to select that blue again, which is, I can do so with the eyedropper tool, then I can also save that. So when I open up Photoshop next time, or make a new layer, a new image, you'll have those two colors ready at hand. Feel free to change the letter. You can use the Move tool and double click on your letter layer, and that will activate the Type tool. It'll automatically switch tools for you. And you could change your color again by clicking here and doing what you'd like. So these compositions, I hope you're going to be sensitive to points of tension. Now if I have this R over, some points of tension include small little triangles that are left over, little fragments that attract our eye, or lines that end at a corner. It's also suspicious for our eye to see something almost leave, like the tip of this counterform here. That coming to a point draws a lot of attention to that point. That point becomes very important in this piece as a result. Same thing with this. If you leave little bits, tension points like that, very uncomfortable. And discomfort isn't always a bad thing. It's just it'll draw attention away from other areas of balance in your piece. So watch out for that. Same thing with this. It's just too close. Designers generally try to overlap a little bit, enough so that we feel like we know what happened there. And I'm just using the Move tool, the arrow keys on my keyboard now to move it. Or have it down below, where it's open space. Now the problem here would be that this gap isn't taking consideration to this area. So you can either increase the size of that R, click on the corner, so that you don't have that problem. And just try to balance out the amount of space that you've got there and there. But sometimes you're going to find that this R is losing its identity. If we have it down here, it could be a P, we're not sure. So there's some problem solving that you got to do, and a lot of trial and error at times. So please hand in those 4 or 2 compositions, depending on what class you're in, and we'll look at them together as a group.